Hello there, and welcome to the Sleep History channel, a sanctuary where tired minds can find peace. If the day has worn you down, or if you simply love falling asleep while discovering the miracles happening inside you, I'm grateful you're here, because tonight's experience was made just for you. A calm and soothing journey through the extraordinary science of healing. There's nothing required of you now, except to be still. Let each breath grow deeper and let your mind begin to unwind. Tonight, we'll gently uncover some of the most comforting truths about your body's ability to repair itself, allowing each detail and each revelation to rest like soft rain on still waters. Some moments may feel reassuring, like the quiet work of cells renewing themselves. Others may fascinate you, like nerves finding their way back, or skin sealing itself from within. If these peaceful journeys bring you comfort, I invite you to like and subscribe or leave a thought in the comments. It guides other weary travelers to this place of rest, one peaceful mind at a time. But right now, just let yourself sink deeper. Let the gentle rhythm of healing embrace you. Let the weight of the world dissolve. And when you're ready, let's begin. Now please sit back and relax and let the soothing voice help you fall asleep. Tonight, we'll explore the gentle science of healing, the extraordinary system operating within you at every moment. Right now, as you're listening, countless trillions of cells are communicating, mending damage, and sustaining your life with a precision that surpasses any human-made machine. Each heartbeat brings a wave of restoration. Each breath powers a cascade of tiny repairs that continue without pause. Healing isn't merely what occurs after an injury. It's the ongoing process of equilibrium and adjustment that defines living. If these peaceful explorations resonate with you, please consider liking, subscribing, or leaving a comment. It guides other weary souls to find this sanctuary. But for this moment, simply breathe. Allow your eyelids to feel heavy and let your thoughts settle. Let's embark on this journey together. Your physical form reconstructs itself across several years. Inside you, regeneration is constant. Cells exist, fulfill their purpose, and quietly fade away, making room for replacements that carry on the work of being you. Bone tissue exchanges itself gradually over many years. Your stomach's inner lining renews within mere days. The outer layer of your skin replaces itself in a steady, silent progression. Nearly everything comprising your physical self today will eventually disappear. Yet the blueprint persists. It's as though your body holds the memory of its ideal form and continuously sculpts toward that vision. This perpetual reconstruction isn't random. It's rhythmic. It's biology's breathing pattern, an endless cycle that requires no conscious effort. You're essentially a flowing river composed of shifting cells, moving through time while somehow maintaining wholeness. With every pulse, your body continues its story of endurance and quietly initiates healing once more. Certain cells dedicate themselves to perpetual tissue repair. Within the concealed depths of every organ exist tireless laborers whose sole function is restoration. These stem-like cells remain in the background, awaiting signals that something requires attention. In your skin, they substitute cells worn away by friction and sun exposure. In your digestive tract, they reconstruct the lining that deteriorates with each meal. In your muscle tissue, they rest dormant until trauma awakens them. Once triggered, they proliferate and travel, weaving fresh tissue into position with impressive accuracy. This happens continuously, alternating between dormancy and action, between stillness and movement. Some of these cells have accompanied you since before birth, preserving a flawless record of your body's original design. They remind each system what completeness feels like. Even when you're unaware, these hidden guardians are restoring the body you inhabit, one silent repair at a time. Skin possesses the knowledge to close itself from within. When your skin's surface breaks, a microscopic tempest erupts beneath. Blood floods the area, forming a clot as a protective barrier. Fibroblasts advance like construction workers, establishing scaffolding made of collagen. Fresh skin cells then migrate across this hidden framework from below, sealing the opening in gradual waves until the surfaces reconnect. This movement originates not from above, but from the tissue depths. The skin heals itself from the inside out, directed by invisible chemical and light gradients. Nerves and blood vessels follow behind, restoring feeling and warmth. A scar represents what remains of this intricate dance, a visible testament to invisible wisdom. Even during sleep, identical patterns persist in microscopic form, fixing the minor tears of daily existence. Your skin isn't merely armor. It's an artist that understands precisely how to render itself whole. Bones detect where reinforcement is needed. Your skeleton is anything but static. Each bone perceives the pressures traveling through it when you walk, lift, stretch, or simply stand upright. Tiny sensors called osteocytes identify where stress concentrates. They transmit signals to cells that dissolve aged mineral and others that construct new material. Through this silent dialogue, bones reshape themselves to accommodate the life you lead. They thicken where you carry weight and hollow where rest is appropriate. Even following a fracture, this same mechanism takes control, interweaving mineral and collagen until strength returns. Every mended bone retains the memory of forces that molded it and carries that information in its architecture. This explains why astronauts experience density loss in weightlessness and regain it upon returning home. Your bones aren't fixed columns. They're living instruments calibrated to gravity and motion. They react to every rhythm, reconstructing their composition beneath your skin. The liver stands alone as the human organ capable of regenerating itself. Concealed below the ribs exists an astonishing organ that performs something close to regeneration in human physiology. The liver can lose a substantial portion of its mass and still rebuild to full capacity. When injury happens, remaining cells divide quickly, guided by a flood of signals that activate dormant genetic material. Blood vessels expand to nourish the emerging growth, and the organ reorganizes itself as if recalling its previous configuration. This regenerative power is ancient, possibly inherited from creatures that could once regrow complete limbs. Even when overburdened, the liver maintains its silent service, purifying blood, regulating hormones, storing energy, and conducting chemistry. It never truly pauses. Its rebuilding capability is a testament to the resilience encoded deep within the body's architecture. Within this soft, humble structure exists one of nature's clearest demonstrations that healing is an art bodies were designed to master. Nerves can rediscover their paths by following chemical markers. When a nerve sustains damage, the body establishes a trail of molecular breadcrumbs. Cells at the injury site release minute chemical signals that direct the regrowth of the nerve fiber. Schwann cells align like lanterns along the former route, illuminating the way back to the muscle or skin that previously received its message. Growth proceeds gradually, millimeter by millimeter, as the nerve extends across the void toward reconnection. The brain waits with patience, sometimes for months, until sensation and function restore. The exactness of this mechanism is breathtaking, as if the body remembers its own cartography. Not every attempt concludes perfectly, but the effort never ceases. Even when a link cannot be re-established, adjacent nerves may assume the function instead. Healing within the nervous system is a narrative of determination, a quiet quest for reunion, steered by chemistry, memory, and the yearning to feel once more. Your bloodstream transports microscopic messengers that summon repair teams. Each blood droplet is more than a stream of red cells. It's a communication grid. When tissue sustains harm, fragments of damaged cells emit molecular distress signals. Platelets sense them and rush forward to create a clot, but they also dispatch chemical announcements into circulation. These signals recruit white blood cells, growth factors, and proteins that rebuild. Some of these messengers even journey to remote organs, preparing them for the restoration task. The bloodstream transforms into a conversation carrying news of what transpired and instructions for what must follow. This coordination unfolds in moments, faster than conscious thought. While you rest, your circulatory system isn't simply transporting oxygen. It's orchestrating a vast, invisible choreography of healing. Every pulse carries not only vitality, but direction, ensuring every corner of the body understands where attention is required most. Sleep is the prime time for cellular restoration. When you sink into deep rest, the aware world recedes, but the biological realm comes alive. Growth hormone floods the system, instructing cells to divide and repair. Muscles knit torn fibers back together. The immune system analyzes the day's encounters, identifying threats and storing information. Even your brain conducts maintenance, flushing away the chemical debris of thought through waves of cerebrospinal fluid. This nightly renewal is among nature's most ancient practices. Without it, minor wounds persist, stress builds up, and mental clarity fades. Sleep isn't an interruption. It's a secret workshop where the body performs its most vital repairs. During these dark hours, healing accelerates, moving through tissue and thought alike. When you awaken, you're not simply rested, you're reconstructed, restored at a cellular level. Sleep is the body's way of telling you that renewal requires surrender, that the deepest repairs happen when consciousness steps aside. Inflammation serves as the body's emergency response team. When injury or infection occurs, blood vessels widen, flooding the area with immune cells and healing factors. This rush produces warmth, redness, and swelling, the unmistakable signs of inflammation. Though uncomfortable, these symptoms signal that repair is underway. White blood cells arrive to clear debris and combat pathogens. Chemical mediators coordinate the response, ensuring resources concentrate where needed. Once the threat passes, anti-inflammatory signals restore calm. Inflammation walks a delicate line. Too little leaves you vulnerable. Too much causes harm. Chronic inflammation disrupts this balance, creating problems rather than solving them. But acute inflammation, the kind that follows a scrape or strain, is healing in its most primal form. It's the body recognizing danger and mobilizing every available resource to address it. Within that heat and pressure lies proof that your body hasn't forgotten how to fight for itself. Fever accelerates immune function deliberately. When your temperature climbs, it's not a malfunction, it's a calculated strategy. Many pathogens struggle to survive in elevated heat. Meanwhile, your immune cells become more active, multiplying faster and working more efficiently. The discomfort you experience is actually your body optimizing its defenses. Fever also signals your brain to trigger rest behaviors, conserving energy for the battle ahead. Ancient healing systems recognize fever as beneficial, and modern science confirms this wisdom. While extremely high fevers require intervention, moderate elevation often indicates the immune system is functioning precisely as designed. This controlled burn purifies, speeds recovery, and teaches the body's defenders to recognize future threats. Fever is temporary discomfort in service of lasting protection, a reminder that healing sometimes requires intensity before it brings relief. Your gut microbiome actively participates in immune regulation. Within your digestive tract lives a vast ecosystem of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms. These microscopic residents aren't merely passengers, they're active partners in maintaining health. They help digest food, produce vitamins, and train immune cells to distinguish friend from foe. When this community thrives, it creates a protective barrier against harmful invaders and reduces unnecessary inflammation. Disruption to this balance can ripple through your entire system, affecting mood, energy, and disease resistance. The gut-brain connection means these microbes even influence thoughts and emotions. Nurturing this internal garden through diverse, fiber-rich foods supports not just digestion, but comprehensive healing. Every meal becomes an opportunity to feed beneficial microbes, strengthening the invisible allies that guard your well-being from within. The microbiome reminds us that health is collaborative. We're never truly alone in our bodies. White blood cells remember past infections. Your immune system possesses a form of memory that rivals any database. After encountering a pathogen, certain white blood cells retain detailed information about it. When that same invader returns, even years later, these memory cells spring into action immediately, mounting a faster, stronger response. This is why childhood illnesses often confer lifelong immunity and why vaccines work. The body doesn't simply fight. It learns, adapts, and improves its defenses over time. This immunological memory is constantly updating, creating a living archive of every battle your body has fought. Each infection leaves you slightly different, slightly stronger in specific ways. Your immune system is essentially writing your biological autobiography, one encounter at a time, building a library of defenses that grows throughout your life. Tears contain antibodies that protect your eyes. Every time you blink, tears wash across your eyes carrying more than just moisture. These fluids contain lysozymes, enzymes that break down bacterial cell walls, along with antibodies that neutralize threats. Tears maintain the perfect environment for your cornea, clearing away debris and pathogens before they can cause harm. Even emotional tears serve a purpose, releasing stress hormones and helping restore emotional equilibrium. The simple act of crying is both cleansing and protective. Your eyes are constantly bathing themselves in this healing fluid, maintaining clarity and fighting infection without your conscious awareness. This perpetual self-cleaning system demonstrates how healing often happens in the smallest, most continuous ways, gentle, persistent, and remarkably effective. Saliva begins the healing process before food enters your stomach. Your mouth produces over 1 liter of saliva daily, and this fluid is far more sophisticated than it appears. It contains enzymes that start breaking down food, buffers that neutralize acids, and antimicrobial compounds that reduce harmful bacteria. Saliva even includes growth factors that accelerate wound healing in the mouth, which is why oral tissues repair faster than skin. When you're stressed or dehydrated, saliva production drops, leaving you more vulnerable. This first line of defense is constantly working, protecting teeth, gums, and throat while preparing food for optimal digestion. Every swallow carries healing compounds throughout your digestive tract. Your mouth isn't just an entrance. It's a sophisticated guardian that begins the process of transformation and protection from the very first moment food enters your body. Autophagy allows cells to recycle damaged components. Within each cell exists a cleanup system called autophagy, meaning self-eating. This process identifies and breaks down damaged proteins, worn-out organelles, and cellular debris. These components get recycled into building blocks for new structures. Autophagy increases during fasting, sleep, and exercise, times when the body shifts from growth mode to maintenance mode. This cellular housekeeping prevents the accumulation of toxic materials that can lead to disease. It's quality control at the smallest scale, ensuring each cell operates efficiently. When autophagy functions well, cells stay younger and more resilient. This mechanism earned its discoverer a Nobel Prize because it revealed how cells maintain themselves over time. Autophagy proves that healing isn't always about addition. Sometimes it's about skillful subtraction, clearing away what no longer serves to make room for renewal. Mitochondria repair themselves to maintain energy production. These tiny powerhouses within your cells generate the energy needed for every bodily function. They're constantly under stress from the very processes that produce energy, yet they possess remarkable self-repair capabilities. Damaged mitochondria can fuse with healthy ones, sharing resources and genetic material to restore function. When repair is impossible, cells eliminate defective mitochondria through specialized autophagy. This quality control ensures your energy production remains efficient. Since mitochondria decline with age, supporting their health through exercise, antioxidants, and adequate sleep becomes increasingly important. These ancient structures, once independent bacteria that merged with our ancestors' cells billions of years ago, still retain some independence. They carry their own DNA and maintain their own repair systems. Taking care of your mitochondria means taking care of your cellular energy supply, the foundation of vitality itself. Telomeres protect chromosomes during cell division. At the end of each chromosome sits a protective cap called a telomere, much like the plastic tip on a shoelace. Every time a cell divides, these telomeres shorten slightly. When they become too short, the cell can no longer divide and enters a state called senescence or dies. This natural countdown limits how many times most cells can replicate, acting as both a safety mechanism against runaway cell division and a biological clock. However, certain cells, including stem cells and reproductive cells, produce an enzyme called telomerase that rebuilds telomeres, granting them extended or unlimited division potential. Lifestyle factors like chronic stress, poor diet, and lack of exercise accelerate telomere shortening, while meditation, exercise, and social connection may slow it. Though we can't stop this process entirely, understanding telomeres reveals how daily choices influence aging at the most fundamental level. These molecular clocks measure not just time, but the accumulated impact of how we live. Collagen forms the structural foundation of healing tissue. This protein is the body's most abundant, forming the scaffold that holds everything together. When tissue is damaged, collagen production increases dramatically. fibroblasts manufacture and arrange collagen fibers in patterns that restore strength and flexibility. This process takes time. It's why wounds initially heal with delicate tissue that gradually toughens. Vitamin C is essential for collagen synthesis, which is why deficiency in this vitamin leads to impaired wound healing. As we age, collagen production naturally slows, which is why skin becomes less elastic and injuries heal more slowly. Supporting collagen formation through proper nutrition, hydration, and protection from excessive sun damage helps maintain the body's structural integrity. Every scar, every healed bone, every repaired tendon contains reorganized collagen, a molecular framework that quite literally holds your healed self together. Platelets are far more than clotting agents. While platelets are famous for stopping bleeding, they serve numerous other functions in healing. They release growth factors that stimulate cell proliferation and blood vessel formation. They recruit other immune cells to injury sites and help orchestrate the entire repair process. Platelets even contain mitochondria and can produce energy, though they're technically cell fragments rather than complete cells. Their versatility has made them valuable in regenerative medicine. Concentrated platelet injections are used to accelerate healing in sports injuries and chronic wounds. These tiny, disc-shaped fragments circulate constantly, ready to spring into action within seconds of injury. They represent the body's rapid response team, arriving first and coordinating everything that follows. In every drop of blood, thousands of platelets patrol silently, waiting to transform from passive travelers into active healers the moment they're needed. Blood vessels grow into healing tissue through angiogenesis. When tissue is damaged or growing, it requires increased blood supply. The body responds through angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels. Existing vessels sprout branches that extend toward areas of low oxygen or high metabolic demand. Chemical signals from damaged tissue guide this growth with precision. These new vessels bring oxygen, nutrients, and immune cells while removing waste products. Without adequate angiogenesis, wounds heal poorly or not at all. Tumors exploit this process to sustain their growth, which is why inhibiting angiogenesis has become a cancer treatment strategy. But in normal healing, angiogenesis is essential. It's the body's way of extending its supply network to support reconstruction. This vascular growth continues even in scar tissue, gradually restoring circulation to healed areas. The ability to grow new blood vessels on demand demonstrates the body's infrastructure constantly adapts to changing needs. Fascia connects and communicates throughout the body. This web-like connective tissue surrounds every muscle, organ, nerve, and blood vessel, creating a continuous network throughout your body. Once thought to be merely structural padding, fascia is now recognized as a sensory organ rich in nerve endings. It responds to movement, tension, and injury, transmitting signals that influence pain perception and healing. When fascia becomes restricted through injury, inflammation, or lack of movement, it can affect distant areas through its interconnectedness. Techniques like massage, stretching, and myofascial release work by restoring mobility to this tissue. Fascia contains its own fibroblasts that remodel it constantly, adapting to the stresses you place on your body. This living matrix holds shape memory. Patterns of tension can persist long after the original cause resolves. Understanding fascia reveals that healing isn't just about individual parts, but about restoring harmony to the entire interconnected system. Lymphatic vessels drain waste and support immunity. Parallel to your blood vessels runs a less famous but equally vital system, the lymphatic network. These vessels collect excess fluid from tissues, filter it through lymph nodes where immune cells screen for threats, and return it to circulation. Without this drainage system, tissues would swell with accumulated fluid and waste products. Lymph nodes swell during infection because they're working overtime, housing the immune response. Unlike blood circulation, lymphatic flow depends on muscle movement and breathing rather than a central pump. This is why gentle movement and deep breathing support healing. They activate lymphatic drainage. Manual lymphatic massage can reduce swelling and accelerate recovery by stimulating this flow. The lymphatic system is essentially the body's sanitation department, removing debris from healing sites and transporting immune cells where they're needed. Supporting lymphatic health means supporting the infrastructure that keeps tissues clean and responsive. Scar tissue is organized differently than original tissue. When skin or organs heal, the repair tissue isn't identical to what was lost. Scar tissue consists of collagen fibers arranged in parallel lines rather than the basket weave pattern of healthy tissue. This alignment is stronger but less flexible. In skin, scars lack sweat glands and hair follicles. In organs, excessive scarring can impair function. Yet scars serve a purpose. They seal wounds quickly when perfect reconstruction would take too long. The body prioritizes survival over cosmetic perfection. Over time, scar tissue continues to remodel, sometimes becoming softer and less noticeable. Techniques like massage and silicone sheets can influence this process. Scars are visible proof of healing, imperfect perhaps, but effective. They're the body's compromise between speed and precision, choosing to close the breach rather than perfectly restore what was. Every scar tells a story of survival and the body's practical wisdom in choosing function over form when time matters most. Keloid scars result from overactive healing. Some individuals produce excessive scar tissue that extends beyond the original wound boundary. These raised, sometimes itchy formations called keloids result from overactive fibroblasts that produce too much collagen. Genetic factors influence keloid formation, which is more common in people with darker skin tones. Unlike regular scars that stabilize and flatten, keloids can continue growing. They represent healing gone into overdrive. The repair mechanisms that normally know when to stop instead continue signaling growth. Treatment options include steroid injections, pressure therapy, or surgical removal, though keloids often recur. They remind us that healing involves delicate feedback loops. When those regulatory signals malfunction, even beneficial processes like collagen production can become problematic. Keloids aren't dangerous, but they demonstrate that healing requires not just activation, but proper termination of repair signals. Knowing when to begin is as important as knowing when to stop. Contracture helps close large wounds but can limit movement. When significant tissue is lost, the wound edges gradually pull together through a process called contraction. Specialized cells called myofibroblasts, which have properties of both fibroblasts and muscle cells, generate the force needed to shrink the wound. This dramatically reduces the area requiring new tissue formation, accelerating healing. However, when contracture occurs near joints, it can restrict movement. Burn victims often experience contractures that require physical therapy or surgical release. The same mechanism that speeds healing can become limiting if unchecked. This illustrates a recurring theme in healing. Processes that serve us in one context may cause problems in another. The body makes practical choices, prioritizing closure over mobility when faced with large wounds. Physical therapy during healing helps maintain flexibility and prevents excessive contracture. Understanding this allows us to work with the body's instincts while mitigating potential complications. Granulation tissue is the foundation of wound healing. When you look at a healing wound, the pink, slightly raised tissue you see is granulation tissue, a temporary structure that fills the wound bed. It's called granulation because under magnification it appears granular, full of new capillaries that give it color. This tissue is rich in fibroblasts, immune cells, and blood vessels. It's highly vascularized but fragile, easily damaged by trauma or infection. Granulation tissue serves as the foundation upon which new skin will form. It gradually transforms into scar tissue as healing progresses. The quality of granulation tissue indicates healing progress. Healthy tissue is pink and slightly moist, while pale or overly dry tissue suggests problems. This temporary structure demonstrates the body's staged approach to healing. First, establish infrastructure, then refine and strengthen. Granulation tissue is the rough draft that precedes the final composition, essential but temporary, serving its purpose before transforming into something more permanent. Epithelialization resurfaces wounds from the edges inward. Once a wound base fills with granulation tissue, skin cells at the wound edges begin migrating across the surface. These cells multiply and crawl over the moist foundation, slowly closing the wound from outside to inside. This process, called epithelialization, requires moisture. Dry wounds epithelialize more slowly. The advancing edge of new skin has a pink, slightly translucent appearance. As epithelial cells meet in the center, chemical signals tell them to stop migrating and instead focus on building layers. This creates a thin, fragile new surface that gradually thickens and strengthens. Modern wound care focuses on maintaining optimal moisture and removing barriers to epithelial migration. The process mirrors how wounds heal throughout evolution, prioritizing speed and coverage, then gradually improving quality. Watching epithelialization is watching the body reclaim its boundaries, restoring the barrier that separates inside from outside, self from world. Chronic wounds reveal when healing mechanisms fail. Sometimes wounds don't follow the expected healing timeline, becoming chronic, lasting months or even years. This usually indicates underlying problems: poor circulation, persistent infection, repetitive trauma, or systemic conditions like diabetes. In chronic wounds, the normal healing sequence stalls, often in the inflammatory phase. Senescent cells accumulate, unable to complete repair, but also unable to die, secreting factors that prevent progression. Breaking this stalemate requires addressing root causes and sometimes actively removing the stalled tissue to stimulate fresh healing. Chronic wounds teach humility about healing's complexity. They remind us that the body's remarkable repair systems depend on adequate resources, proper signaling, and removal of obstacles. When healing falters, it's usually not because the body has forgotten how to heal, but because conditions necessary for healing aren't met. Addressing chronic wounds means becoming a detective, identifying and removing the barriers that prevent the body from doing what it's designed to do. Fetal tissue heals without scarring. In early development, wounded fetal skin heals perfectly, regenerating exact copies of what was lost. No scarring at all. This remarkable ability diminishes as pregnancy progresses, disappearing before birth. Researchers studying this phenomenon hope to unlock the secrets of scarless healing. The difference involves immune response, inflammation levels, growth factor profiles, and the extracellular matrix composition in fetal versus adult tissue. Fetal healing is faster, quieter, and more regenerative. Adult healing prioritizes speed and closure, accepting scars as the price of quick repair. Some organisms retain regenerative abilities throughout life. Salamanders can regrow limbs. Zebrafish can regenerate heart tissue. Humans maintain echoes of this capacity in limited contexts, like the liver's regrowth. Understanding why we lose scarless healing might one day help us reclaim it, at least partially. This developmental difference proves the body knows how to achieve perfect healing. It's a matter of reactivating dormant programs written into our genetic code. Regenerative medicine aims to enhance natural healing. Scientists are developing therapies that amplify the body's inherent repair mechanisms. Stem cell treatments seek to provide fresh cells with full regenerative potential. Growth factor therapies concentrate and deliver the signals that coordinate healing. Tissue engineering creates biodegradable scaffolds that guide cell growth, dissolving as natural tissue replaces them. Gene therapies aim to reactivate regenerative programs that shut down after development. These approaches don't replace the body's healing, they support and enhance it. The goal is making healing faster, more complete, and more like the perfect repair seen in fetal tissue or regenerative organisms. While some applications remain experimental, others have already become standard care. The field represents a shift from merely removing disease to actively promoting restoration. Regenerative medicine recognizes that the body already possesses sophisticated repair systems. Our task is learning to work with them rather than around them. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy accelerates certain types of healing. Breathing pure oxygen in a pressurized chamber allows blood to carry far more oxygen than normal. This supersaturated oxygen reaches damaged tissues, stimulating new blood vessel formation, enhancing immune function, and reducing certain infections. Hyperbaric treatment helps stubborn wounds, radiation injuries, carbon monoxide poisoning, and decompression sickness. However, it's not beneficial for all conditions and carries some risks. The therapy works by temporarily providing conditions that allow healing processes to overcome barriers, particularly oxygen deficiency in damaged tissue. It demonstrates that healing mechanisms remain capable, but sometimes lack the resources to function optimally. Providing those resources, in this case, dramatically increased oxygen, can restart stalled healing. Not every healing problem requires high-tech solutions, but for specific conditions, manipulating the environment through pressurized oxygen gives the body's repair systems the boost they need to complete their work. Platelet-rich plasma concentrates healing factors. Drawing your own blood, concentrating the platelets, and injecting this preparation into injured tissue delivers a concentrated dose of growth factors and healing signals. This treatment, called PRP therapy, is used for tendon injuries, arthritis, hair loss, and wound healing. It's not introducing anything foreign. It's simply focusing your body's own healing resources where they're needed most. Results vary depending on the condition and preparation method. PRP represents a philosophy of working with the body rather than against it, amplifying natural processes rather than replacing them. While research continues to define which conditions benefit most, the approach illustrates an important principle. Sometimes healing requires concentration of resources. The body distributes its healing capacity broadly. Therapies like PRP override this distribution, creating focal areas of intense healing activity. It's the medical equivalent of gathering all your resources and directing them toward a single goal. Cold therapy reduces inflammation and pain. Applying cold to acute injuries constricts blood vessels, reducing swelling and numbing pain. Cold slows metabolic processes and cellular death in damaged tissue. It's a standard first response to sprains, strains, and bruises. However, timing matters. Excessive cold can impair healing by restricting the blood flow needed for repair. The optimal approach often involves cold application immediately after injury, then transitioning to alternating cold and heat as healing progresses. Cold therapy works by temporarily suppressing the inflammatory response. While inflammation is necessary for healing, excessive inflammation can cause unnecessary damage. Cold provides a break, moderating the response without eliminating it entirely. This again illustrates healing's balancing act. You need inflammation, but not too much. Activity, but also rest. Intervention, but also trust in natural processes. Cold therapy is a tool for moderation, helping the body find the middle path between under-response and over-response to injury. Heat therapy increases blood flow and relaxes tissue. Once the acute inflammatory phase passes, heat becomes beneficial. Warmth dilates blood vessels, increasing circulation that brings healing resources and removes waste products. Heat also relaxes muscles and makes connective tissue more pliable, reducing pain and stiffness. This is why warm baths feel therapeutic and why heat is used for chronic pain conditions. The increased blood flow delivers oxygen, nutrients, and immune cells while removing inflammatory mediators and metabolic debris. Heat essentially speeds up the later phases of healing, the remodeling and strengthening that follow initial repair. It works particularly well for chronic issues where circulation has become sluggish. The warmth signals the body that it's safe to relax, reducing protective muscle guarding that can perpetuate pain. Heat therapy acknowledges that healing requires adequate blood supply, and that sometimes the body needs encouragement to increase flow to problem areas that have adapted to a low circulation state. Compression supports healing by controlling swelling. Gentle, graduated compression helps prevent excessive fluid accumulation in injured tissue. Swelling can impede healing by increasing tissue pressure, reducing blood flow, and creating distance between cells that need to communicate. Compression wraps, sleeves, or stockings provide external support that encourages fluid return through veins and lymphatic vessels. This is especially important for lower extremity injuries where gravity works against fluid drainage. However, compression must be applied correctly. Too tight, and it restricts circulation. Too loose, and it's ineffective. The principle behind compression is managing inflammation rather than eliminating it. Some swelling is necessary for healing, delivering immune cells and growth factors. But excessive swelling becomes counterproductive, creating mechanical barriers to repair. Compression helps maintain that optimal middle ground, supporting the body's healing response while preventing it from overshooting into territory where swelling itself becomes a problem requiring treatment. Elevation reduces swelling through gravity. Keeping an injured body part above heart level uses gravity to assist fluid drainage. Blood and lymph return more easily to central circulation, reducing accumulation in damaged tissue. This simple intervention, propping up a sprained ankle or injured arm, works with the body's circulatory design. Combined with other approaches like rest, ice, and compression, elevation forms part of the classic RICE protocol for acute injuries. The effectiveness of elevation demonstrates that sometimes healing requires no active treatment, just removal of obstacles. Gravity constantly pulls fluid downward. Elevation temporarily reverses this, giving the body's drainage systems an easier task. This passive support allows the body's own mechanisms to work more efficiently. It's a reminder that healing often benefits from environmental adjustments rather than aggressive intervention, creating conditions where the body's inherent capabilities can function optimally. Rest allows energy to focus on healing. When injured or ill, the body signals for rest through fatigue, reduced appetite, and decreased motivation for activity. This isn't weakness, it's wise resource allocation. Healing requires substantial energy and materials. By reducing unnecessary activity, the body redirects resources toward repair. Growth hormone and other healing factors increase during rest and sleep. Immune function optimizes. Inflammation resolves more efficiently. Forced activity during healing extends recovery time and risks worsening injury. Yet complete immobilization also causes problems. Muscles atrophy, joints stiffen, circulation slows. The wisdom lies in finding appropriate rest, enough to support healing without causing deconditioning. This varies by injury type and healing phase. Early on, rest dominates. As healing progresses, gradually increasing activity stimulates optimal remodeling. Rest isn't laziness or giving up. It's an active choice to prioritize healing, trusting that temporary stillness serves long-term strength. The body asks for rest because it knows this pause allows deeper, more complete repair than would be possible while maintaining normal activity levels. Movement prevents stiffness and promotes circulation. While rest is crucial early in healing, appropriate movement becomes important as repair progresses. Gentle, controlled motion maintains joint mobility, prevents muscle atrophy, and stimulates circulation that brings healing resources. Movement also provides mechanical signals that influence how tissue remodels. Scar tissue and healing bone orient their structure based on the forces moving through them. Appropriate stress creates strong, functional tissue. Physical therapy isn't punishment or arbitrary torture. It's collaboration with healing mechanisms. Exercises are timed and designed to challenge tissue enough to stimulate strengthening, without overwhelming its current capacity. Pain serves as a guide. Some discomfort during rehabilitation is expected, but sharp or severe pain indicates excessive demand. Movement during healing requires listening carefully to the body's signals, gradually expanding activity as tissue strengthens. This negotiation between rest and activity, between protection and challenge, continues throughout recovery. Optimal healing isn't found at either extreme, but in the responsive middle ground, where the body receives both the support and the stimulus it needs. Pain serves as a protective signal during healing. While we often view pain as the problem, it's actually information, a signal that something needs attention or protection. Acute pain prevents further injury by encouraging rest and careful movement. It focuses attention on the injured area, making you conscious of its limitations. Pain also triggers protective muscle spasms that immobilize injured areas. As healing progresses, pain should gradually decrease. Persistent or worsening pain suggests complications or inadequate healing conditions. Chronic pain that outlasts tissue healing time indicates the nervous system has learned a pain pattern that persists even when the original injury has resolved. Pain management during healing involves a balance, enough control to allow rest and function, but not so much that protective signals are completely masked. Understanding pain as communication rather than enemy changes how we approach it. The goal isn't always elimination, but modulation. Keeping pain at levels that inform without overwhelming, allowing the body to both heal and maintain awareness of its healing needs. Inflammation has different phases with distinct purposes. The inflammatory response isn't a single event, but a sequence of carefully orchestrated phases. The acute phase brings swelling, heat, and immune cells that clear debris and fight infection. The proliferative phase involves tissue formation and blood vessel growth. The remodeling phase strengthens and refines the new tissue. Each phase has characteristic cell types, chemical signals, and time courses. Problems arise when inflammation gets stuck in one phase or when phases overlap inappropriately. Understanding these phases helps explain why treatment approaches change during recovery. What's appropriate in acute inflammation becomes counterproductive in later phases. It also explains why healing takes time. Rushing through phases or skipping steps leads to poor tissue quality. The body's sequencing of repair phases reflects millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Each phase prepares the ground for the next. Skipping ahead might seem efficient, but often results in weak repairs that fail under stress. Respecting the timing and purpose of each inflammatory phase means working with the body's wisdom rather than against its carefully designed sequence. Anti-inflammatory medications can both help and hinder healing. Drugs that reduce inflammation provide comfort and control. Excessive inflammatory responses that cause more harm than good. However, these same medications can slow healing if used inappropriately. Inflammation is necessary for healing. It brings the cells and factors that initiate repair. Suppressing inflammation too much or too early may provide comfort, but can delay healing. The decision to use anti-inflammatory drugs requires balancing pain relief against healing support. In some situations, short-term use early on prevents excessive inflammation without significantly impairing healing. In others, avoiding these drugs allows natural healing processes to proceed unimpeded. Neither approach is always right or always wrong. This reflects a larger truth about healing. Interventions are tools, not solutions. They're most effective when used thoughtfully, timed appropriately, and combined with respect for natural healing processes. Sometimes the best medicine is the one not taken, allowing the body to complete its inflammatory work. Other times, moderating excessive inflammation prevents unnecessary suffering and tissue damage. Wisdom lies in discernment, not dogma. Antibiotics prevent infection, but don't directly heal tissue. These powerful drugs kill or inhibit bacteria, preventing infection from overwhelming healing tissue. Clean, uninfected wounds heal faster and better than contaminated ones. However, antibiotics don't repair tissue. They simply remove a major obstacle to healing. Overuse of antibiotics can disrupt the microbiome, potentially affecting healing in complex ways. Resistance is also a growing concern. When antibiotics are truly needed, they're life-saving. When used unnecessarily, they carry risks without benefits. This distinction matters. Antibiotics are defensive medicine, protecting healing rather than driving it. The body still does the actual repair work. Appropriate antibiotic use creates conditions where healing can proceed, but healing itself remains the body's task. This applies to many medical interventions. They remove obstacles, control excessive responses, or provide support. But healing fundamentally depends on the body's innate capabilities. Medicine at its best is partnership. Using drugs and interventions to optimize conditions while respecting that tissue repair is ultimately a biological process that medication can support, but not replace. Nutrition provides the building blocks for healing. Tissue repair requires substantial resources: proteins for building new cells, vitamins for enzymatic processes, minerals for structure, and energy to fuel the entire operation. Inadequate nutrition slows healing significantly. Protein needs increase during recovery to supply amino acids for new tissue. Vitamin C is essential for collagen synthesis. Zinc supports immune function and cell division. Vitamin A influences epithelial tissue formation. Omega-3 fatty acids modulate inflammation. Hydration maintains circulation and cellular function. The body can't manufacture tissue from nothing. It needs raw materials. Deficiency in any key nutrient becomes a rate-limiting factor, slowing healing regardless of other interventions. This is why malnutrition so profoundly impairs recovery, and why nutritional support is standard in treating severe wounds or illness. You can't heal without the chemical building blocks healing requires. Every meal becomes an opportunity to support recovery, providing the substrate the body will transform into new tissue. Nutrition isn't separate from healing. It's foundational to it. Hydration affects every aspect of healing. Water is the medium in which all bodily chemistry occurs. Dehydration impairs circulation, making it harder to deliver oxygen and nutrients to healing tissue and remove waste products. It thickens blood, reducing its ability to flow through small vessels. Dehydration also impairs cellular function directly. Cells operate within narrow hydration ranges. Even mild dehydration can slow healing. Adequate fluid intake supports lymphatic drainage, kidney function, and metabolic waste removal. It maintains the moisture balance necessary for optimal wound healing. The body prioritizes water distribution, shunting it away from less critical areas during dehydration. This means healing tissue may not receive adequate hydration even when vital organs are still functioning. Staying well hydrated isn't just about thirst. It's about providing the medium in which healing chemistry can occur efficiently. Every cell involved in repair requires proper hydration to function. Water doesn't heal directly, but inadequate water prevents optimal healing. It's a foundation so basic, it's often overlooked, yet critically important for every aspect of recovery. Blood sugar control influences wound healing. Elevated blood sugar interferes with healing in multiple ways. It impairs immune function, reducing the body's ability to prevent and fight infection. High glucose damages blood vessels, reducing circulation to healing tissue. It interferes with collagen formation and remodeling. This is why people with diabetes often experience slow healing wounds, and why blood sugar control is emphasized during recovery. The relationship works both ways. Illness and injury can temporarily raise blood sugar even in people without diabetes. The body's stress response releases glucose for energy, but excessively high levels become counterproductive. Maintaining stable, moderate blood sugar levels supports healing. This doesn't mean avoiding all carbohydrates. The body needs energy for repair. It means choosing complex carbohydrates that release glucose steadily rather than causing spikes, and balancing carbohydrates with proteins and fats. Blood sugar management during healing is another example of supporting the body's middle path, providing adequate energy without creating the metabolic chaos that high glucose causes. Stress hormones can slow healing. When you're stressed, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline, hormones designed for short-term survival. These hormones redirect resources away from long-term maintenance and toward immediate threats. Chronic stress keeps these hormones elevated, suppressing immune function, reducing growth hormone production, and impairing sleep, all factors that slow healing. Stress also increases inflammation and can worsen pain perception. The mind-body connection in healing isn't mystical. It's mediated by measurable hormones and neural signals. Managing stress during recovery isn't optional luxury, it's practical medicine. Techniques that reduce stress, deep breathing, meditation, social connection, nature exposure, have measurable effects on healing markers. This doesn't mean you can think yourself healed or that serious injuries don't need medical care. It means psychological state affects physiological healing through concrete biological mechanisms. Supporting healing means addressing the whole person, recognizing that emotional stress creates chemical realities that either support or impede tissue repair. Social connection supports healing through multiple pathways. Humans are social creatures, and isolation affects health in measurable ways. Social support reduces stress hormones, improves immune function, and correlates with faster recovery from illness and surgery. The mechanisms are partly hormonal. Positive social interaction releases oxytocin and reduces cortisol. But there are also practical elements. People with strong social networks are more likely to follow treatment recommendations, attend appointments, and maintain healthy behaviors. Loneliness is as dangerous to health as smoking or obesity by some measures. During healing, feeling cared for and connected provides both emotional comfort and biological support. This doesn't mean forcing interaction when rest is needed. It means ensuring you're not isolated, that support is available when wanted. The healing power of connection is real and measurable, operating through stress reduction, improved adherence to treatment, and direct effects on immune and endocrine function. Healing happens faster in the presence of care and slower in isolation. Community and connection aren't separate from medicine. They're part of the foundation on which healing rests. Laughter and positive emotions affect immune function. Research shows that laughter and positive emotional states boost immune cell activity, increase pain tolerance, and reduce stress hormones. While negative emotions aren't forbidden during healing, grief, frustration, and fear are valid responses to illness or injury. Finding moments of lightness and joy provides measurable benefits. Laughter increases endorphins, the body's natural pain relievers. It improves circulation and oxygenation. It reduces muscle tension and stress. This doesn't mean forcing false positivity or denying difficult emotions. It means allowing space for whatever brings genuine lightness, humor, pleasant memories, time with people, or activities that lift your spirits. Positive emotions don't replace medical treatment, but they create a hormonal and neurological environment where healing processes function more efficiently. The mind and body aren't separate systems. They're intimately connected through complex feedback loops. Emotional state translates into chemical reality, affecting everything from inflammation to immune function. Supporting emotional well-being during recovery isn't frivolous. It's pragmatic recognition that healing happens in a body that's also a mind, and both need care. Gratitude practices can reduce inflammation. Studies show that regularly practicing gratitude, consciously focusing on things you appreciate, reduces inflammatory markers and improves heart rate variability, a measure of nervous system flexibility. The mechanism isn't fully understood, but likely involves stress reduction and shifts in nervous system balance. Gratitude appears to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode where healing thrives. This doesn't require toxic positivity or denying difficulties. It's simply taking moments to notice what's working, what's supportive, what brings meaning or comfort. During healing, this might be gratitude for the body's repair capabilities, for people providing support, for small improvements noticed day by day. Gratitude practices are free, have no side effects, and can be done anywhere. They represent a type of mental hygiene that supports physical healing. While no one should feel guilty for struggling emotionally during recovery, knowing that simple practices like gratitude have measurable effects offers an accessible tool. Appreciation doesn't heal wounds directly, but it creates an internal environment. Lower stress, better sleep, reduced inflammation, where the body's own healing mechanisms work more effectively. Sleep deprivation dramatically impairs healing. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormone, consolidates immune memories, and performs intensive repair work. Missing sleep delays wound healing, impairs immune response to vaccines, and increases infection risk. Chronic sleep deprivation creates a state of persistent low-grade inflammation that hinders recovery from illness or injury. The relationship is bidirectional. Pain and discomfort can disrupt sleep, creating a vicious cycle. Prioritizing sleep during recovery isn't weakness, it's providing the conditions healing requires. This might mean adjusting schedules, creating a sleep-conducive environment, managing pain adequately for sleep, or seeking help for sleep disorders. Sleep is when the conscious mind steps aside and the body performs its deepest healing work. It's not lost time, it's invested time. Hours spent in intensive repair that can't happen as efficiently during waking. Every hour of quality sleep is an hour of focused healing. Treating sleep as optional or expendable during recovery is like trying to build a house without materials. You might keep working, but progress will be slow and quality poor. Dreams may process emotional aspects of illness or injury. During REM sleep, when most vivid dreams occur, the brain processes emotional experiences and consolidates memories. People recovering from trauma or illness often report dreams related to their experience. These aren't random. They're the brain working through the emotional and cognitive aspects of what happened. Dreams can help integrate difficult experiences, process fear or loss, and sometimes even problem solve. While we don't fully understand dream function, evidence suggests they play a role in emotional regulation and memory consolidation. Disturbing dreams during recovery aren't necessarily problems. They may be part of the brain's healing process, working through the psychological dimensions of physical trauma. This illustrates again that healing isn't purely physical. The mind and body heal together, each processing their version of the experience. Dreams represent the mind's version of repair work, happening in parallel with tissue repair. Respecting sleep means respecting not just physical restoration, but psychological processing as well. Circadian rhythms influence healing processes. The body's internal clock regulates far more than sleep-wake cycles. Immune cell activity, hormone release, body temperature, and cellular repair processes all follow circadian patterns. Disrupting these rhythms through shift work, jet lag, or irregular schedules impairs healing. Wound healing is faster when injuries occur at certain times of day. Immune response to vaccines varies by time of administration. The body expects certain things to happen at certain times, and its healing processes are optimized around these expectations. Supporting circadian health during recovery means maintaining regular sleep-wake times, getting bright light exposure during the day and darkness at night, and timing meals consistently. These aren't minor details. They're synchronization signals that keep healing processes operating on schedule. Circadian disruption is increasingly recognized as a health risk, affecting everything from cancer risk to metabolic health. During healing, maintaining strong circadian rhythms provides a temporal framework that allows repair processes to function efficiently. The body heals best when it knows what time it is. Temperature regulation affects healing efficiency. The body maintains core temperature within a narrow range because enzyme function, chemical reactions, and cellular processes all have optimal temperature ranges. Fever, as discussed earlier, can enhance immune function during infection. But during normal healing, maintaining appropriate temperature matters. Cold slows metabolic processes. Excessive heat can damage tissue. The body increases blood flow to injured areas, partly to maintain temperature. Keeping warm, but not overheated, during recovery, supports circulation and metabolic function. This is one reason rest and warmth feel instinctively right during illness. They're supporting optimal healing conditions. Conversely, hypothermia or excessive cold exposure during healing can slow recovery. The body's thermoregulation is another background process that healing depends on, usually operating seamlessly but capable of either supporting or hindering recovery when disrupted. Temperature is part of the environmental conditions that healing requires. Not too hot, not too cold, but maintained within the range where chemistry operates optimally. The placebo effect demonstrates mind-body healing connections. When people improve after receiving inactive treatments, it's not that they imagine their symptoms. Measurable physiological changes occur. Pain-relieving endorphins release, immune markers shift, healing accelerates. The placebo effect proves that belief, expectation, and context influence biology through real mechanisms. This doesn't mean medicine is unnecessary or that positive thinking cures serious disease. It means the mind participates in healing through the nervous and endocrine systems. Optimizing healing means attending to psychological factors, not because they replace medical treatment, but because they interact with it. The meaning we assign to treatments, our trust in caregivers, our expectation of improvement, these create neurological and hormonal changes that either support or hinder healing. This is why the therapeutic relationship matters, why hope isn't foolish, why treating people with kindness and respect during medical care isn't just nice, but therapeutically relevant. The placebo effect isn't deception. It's evidence that healing happens in context, influenced by everything from environmental cues to social interactions to personal beliefs. Nocebo effects show how negative expectations impair healing. Just as positive expectations can support healing, negative ones can hinder it. When people expect side effects or poor outcomes, they're more likely to experience them, not through imagination, but through real biological mechanisms. Stress from negative expectations triggers the same stress hormones that impair healing. Focusing on symptoms can amplify pain perception through attentional mechanisms. This isn't blame. It's recognition that the mind powerfully influences bodily experience. During healing, managing negative expectations doesn't mean forced optimism, but rather balanced realism. Catastrophizing, assuming the worst possible outcome, creates stress that measurably impairs recovery. Conversely, acknowledging difficulty, while maintaining openness to improvement, supports both emotional coping and physiological healing. Information matters too. Being informed about what to expect reduces anxiety and improves outcomes compared to uncertainty. The nocebo effect reminds us that healing happens in a context that includes thoughts, beliefs, and expectations. These aren't separate from biology. They shape biology through neural and hormonal pathways. Pain catastrophizing predicts slower recovery. When people interpret pain as unbearable, uncontrollable, or indicative of serious ongoing damage, recovery slows. This pattern of thinking, called pain catastrophizing, correlates with worse outcomes across many conditions. It's not that the pain is imaginary. Catastrophizing represents a particular cognitive and emotional response to real sensations. This response triggers stress hormones, increases muscle tension, and actually amplifies pain signals through top-down modulation. Interventions that reduce catastrophizing, cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, education about pain, improve recovery. This demonstrates again that psychological factors aren't separate from healing. They're integrated into it through the nervous system. Addressing catastrophizing doesn't minimize someone's pain or suggest weakness. It recognizes that pain perception and healing both involve complex interactions between body and mind. Supporting recovery means addressing not just tissue damage, but also the interpretations and responses that influence how pain is processed and how healing progresses. Mindfulness meditation reduces pain and supports healing. Practicing mindful awareness, paying attention to present moment experience without judgment, has measurable effects on pain, stress, and healing markers. Brain imaging shows that mindfulness alters pain processing in the brain, not by eliminating sensation, but by changing the relationship to it. Meditators experience pain as less unpleasant and threatening, even when sensory intensity remains similar. Mindfulness also reduces stress hormones, improves immune function, and enhances sleep, all factors that support healing. The practice doesn't require spiritual beliefs or extensive training. Simple exercises like focusing on breath while noting when attention wanders can provide benefits. During healing, mindfulness offers a way to relate to discomfort differently, reducing suffering even when pain persists. It also helps distinguish between actual pain signals and anxiety about pain, reducing the amplification that catastrophizing creates. Mindfulness represents a practical tool for working with the mind-body dimensions of healing, accessible to anyone willing to practice. Breathing exercises activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Slow, deep breathing triggers the vagus nerve, shifting the body from fight or flight to rest and digest mode. This reduces stress hormones, lowers blood pressure and heart rate, and creates the physiological state where healing proceeds most efficiently. Simple practices like breathing in for a count of 4, holding briefly, then exhaling for 6 can be done anywhere. The physiological shift is measurable and immediate. Breathing exercises are particularly useful for managing pain, reducing anxiety, and improving sleep, all relevant to healing. They work because breathing is one of the few autonomic functions under both automatic and conscious control. By voluntarily changing breathing patterns, we can influence unconscious processes. This represents a bridge between voluntary and involuntary systems, a way to consciously support healing processes that usually operate below awareness. Breathwork isn't mystical, it's applied physiology. using breath to send signals that tell the body it's safe to shift resources toward repair and maintenance. Visualization and guided imagery can influence healing. Research shows that mentally rehearsing movement can maintain neural pathways during immobilization, that visualizing immune cells attacking infection can enhance immune markers, and that guided imagery reduces pain and anxiety. The mechanism involves the same neural networks that control actual movement and bodily functions. The brain doesn't completely distinguish between vividly imagined and actual experiences. Both activate similar regions. This doesn't mean you can imagine away serious illness, but it means mental imagery can support healing processes through neural and hormonal pathways. Athletes use visualization to enhance performance and recovery. Surgical patients who practice guided imagery often have better outcomes. The practice involves deliberately creating mental images of healing. White blood cells clearing infection, tissue knitting together, pain dissolving. Combined with relaxation, this creates both a psychological shift and physiological changes that support recovery. Visualization is a tool, not a cure, but an accessible one that works with the mind-body connections that influence healing. Progressive muscle relaxation releases physical tension. This technique involves systematically tensing and then releasing muscle groups throughout the body. It teaches awareness of tension and the ability to release it consciously. Chronic muscle tension is both a response to pain and a cause of it, creating feedback loops that perpetuate discomfort. It also triggers stress responses and impairs circulation. Learning to release muscle tension breaks these cycles. The practice is simple, but requires attention and practice. Starting at one end of the body and progressing through each muscle group. You briefly tense muscles, notice the sensation, then completely release and notice the difference. Over time, this builds the ability to recognize and release tension automatically. During healing, this supports pain management, improves circulation, reduces stress hormones, and enhances sleep quality. Progressive muscle relaxation is practical and evidence-based, working through straightforward physiological mechanisms, teaching the nervous system to distinguish between tension and relaxation, and to choose relaxation more readily. Acceptance and commitment therapy helps people live well during healing. This therapeutic approach helps people accept difficult experiences they can't control while committing to actions aligned with their values. During prolonged healing or chronic conditions, ACET helps people build meaningful lives despite ongoing challenges rather than waiting until symptoms resolve to engage with life. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means acknowledging reality clearly and choosing how to respond. This reduces the suffering that comes from fighting unavoidable difficulties. Commitment involves identifying what matters and taking steps toward it despite obstacles. The approach recognizes that trying to eliminate all discomfort before living fully is both impossible and counterproductive. For healing, AKE provides tools for relating to pain and limitation differently, reducing the additional suffering that resistance creates. It helps people distinguish between what can be changed and what must be accepted, focusing energy on changeable factors, activity choices, treatment adherence, social connection, while reducing exhausting struggle against unchangeable reality. Cognitive behavioral therapy restructures thoughts that impair healing. CBT helps people identify and modify thought patterns that create or worsen distress. During healing, this might address catastrophizing about pain, anxiety about outcomes, depression about limitations, or hopelessness about recovery. CBT isn't positive thinking or denial. It's examining whether thoughts are accurate and helpful, then experimenting with alternatives. For example, "This pain will never end," might be tested against evidence and modified to "This pain is difficult right now, and healing takes time." That shift reduces distress without denying difficulty. CBT also addresses behavioral patterns that impede recovery. Avoidance of all activity due to fear, neglecting rehabilitation exercises, social withdrawal. The approach is practical and skills-based, teaching techniques people can use independently. Extensive research shows CBT improves outcomes for pain conditions, recovery from injury, and adjustment to chronic illness. It works because thoughts influence emotions and behaviors, which influence physiology through stress responses and health behaviors. CBT provides tools for managing the psychological dimensions of healing, which in turn supports physical recovery. Biofeedback teaches conscious control of unconscious processes, using sensors that measure things like muscle tension, heart rate, or skin temperature. Biofeedback makes invisible physiological processes visible. This awareness allows people to learn to consciously influence functions, usually beyond voluntary control. For healing, biofeedback can help reduce muscle tension that contributes to pain, improve circulation through temperature biofeedback, or enhance relaxation through heart rate variability training. The technique is based on a simple principle. What you can measure, you can learn to modify. Watching a display that shows muscle tension rising and falling as you tense and relax teaches your nervous system how to produce relaxation more reliably. Biofeedback isn't magic. It's applied learning theory, using feedback to shape physiological responses, just as feedback shapes any learned skill. The training typically requires specialized equipment and practitioner guidance initially, but skills learned transfer to daily life. Biofeedback demonstrates that the boundary between voluntary and involuntary isn't absolute. With awareness and practice, we can influence processes typically considered automatic. Hypnosis can reduce pain and accelerate healing. Hypnosis involves focused attention and suggestion, creating a state of heightened suggestibility. In this state, suggestions about pain reduction, healing, or relaxation have stronger effects. Research shows hypnosis effectively reduces pain, anxiety, and even speeds healing of some wounds. The mechanism isn't fully understood, but involves both top-down modulation of pain signals and potentially direct effects on inflammation and immune function through nervous system changes. Hypnosis isn't about loss of control or stage tricks. Therapeutic hypnosis is a collaborative process where the person remains aware and maintains control. It simply uses focused attention to influence physiological processes more effectively than usual. Hypnotherapy, for medical purposes, typically involves repeated sessions teaching self-hypnosis techniques. Like other mind-body approaches, hypnosis isn't a replacement for medical treatment, but a complement to it. It works particularly well for pain management, reducing medication needs and improving quality of life during recovery. Hypnosis represents another tool for accessing and influencing the nervous system pathways that modulate both pain and healing. Music therapy engages multiple healing pathways. Listening to music activates widespread brain networks, influences emotions, and can reduce pain perception, anxiety, and stress hormones. Music therapy. During recovery from surgery, injury, or illness, improves outcomes through several mechanisms. Rhythmic music can entrain physiological rhythms like breathing and heart rate. preferred music releases dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, which has pain-relieving properties. Music provides distraction from discomfort and can evoke positive memories and emotions. Group music making adds social connection benefits. Music therapy isn't just pleasant distraction. It measurably affects heart rate variability, cortisol levels, and pain ratings. The intervention is low risk, accessible, and can be self-administered. During healing, music offers a way to influence mood, pain, and stress, factors that in turn affect physiological healing processes. It demonstrates that healing support can come from simple, enjoyable activities that engage brain networks connected to health-relevant physiological systems. Art therapy allows processing of experiences beyond words. Creating art activates different brain networks than language, offering access to experiences and emotions that words can't fully capture. For people healing from trauma, illness, or injury, art provides a way to express and process what they're going through. The creative process itself can be meditative, focusing attention and reducing stress. Completing art projects provides a sense of accomplishment and control during times when much feels beyond control. Looking at created art later can offer insights into emotional states and progress. Art therapy isn't about artistic skill. It's about using creative expression as a tool for processing and healing. Research shows benefits for pain management, PTSD, depression, and adjustment to chronic illness. The activity engages the prefrontal cortex in ways that support emotional regulation, while allowing expression of difficult experiences. Art therapy recognizes that healing has cognitive and emotional dimensions that benefit from approaches beyond verbal discussion. Creative expression becomes a bridge between conscious and unconscious processing, between body sensations and their meanings. Nature exposure supports healing through multiple pathways. Time in natural environments reduces stress hormones, lowers blood pressure, improves mood, and enhances immune function. Even viewing nature through windows or in pictures provides measurable benefits. The mechanism likely involves attention restoration. Nature effortlessly captures attention without requiring the effortful focus that depletes mental resources. Natural environments also offer sensory richness that's engaging but not overwhelming. Fractal patterns in nature may have particularly relaxing effects on the nervous system. For healing, nature exposure provides a context that supports the parasympathetic state where repair thrives. Hospital patients with views of nature recover faster and need less pain medication. Time outdoors when possible, or bringing natural elements indoors when it's not, creates an environment that supports healing. This doesn't require wilderness. Even urban parks or indoor plants provide benefits. Nature connection might work partly because humans evolved in natural environments. Our nervous systems may function most optimally in contexts similar to ancestral environments where they developed. Animal-assisted therapy provides companionship and physiological benefits. Interaction with animals reduces stress hormones, lowers blood pressure, releases oxytocin, and improves mood. Therapy. Animals in hospitals and rehabilitation settings don't just provide distraction. They create measurable physiological changes that support healing. The non-judgmental presence, tactile contact, and focus on the present moment that animals naturally provide all support recovery. For some people, animals offer easier connection than human interaction during vulnerable times. Pet ownership is associated with better health outcomes, partly through stress reduction and partly through increased activity and social connection that pets facilitate. During healing, animal interaction offers accessible stress reduction, gentle physical activity, walking dogs, routine and purpose, and emotional support. The relationship is bidirectional. Caring for animals provides meaning and motivation that support recovery. Animal-assisted interventions aren't appropriate for everyone or every setting, but where available, they provide a unique combination of emotional, social, and physiological support for healing. Touch and massage influence healing through nervous system pathways. Gentle touch activates C-tactile fibers, nerve endings that send signals to brain areas processing social bonding and emotional regulation rather than just sensation. This is why comforting touch has effects beyond the mechanical. Massage increases circulation, reduces muscle tension, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It can improve lymphatic drainage and reduce swelling. Research shows massage reduces pain, anxiety, and stress hormones while improving sleep. The mechanism includes both local effects on tissues and systemic effects through nervous system activation. Touch communicates safety and care, important for psychological well-being that influences physiological healing. However, touch must be appropriate and wanted. Unwanted touch creates stress rather than comfort. Cultural and personal preferences matter. For those who appreciate it, therapeutic touch or massage provides another avenue for supporting healing, not through tissue manipulation alone, but through the integrated mind-body responses that touch evokes. Even self-massage, particularly of hands and feet, can provide some benefits by activating these pathways. Aromatherapy works through olfactory limbic pathways. Scent molecules directly access brain regions involved in emotion and memory, bypassing the conscious processing required by other senses. This creates rapid effects on mood and stress. Essential oils like lavender have demonstrated anxiety, reducing and sleep-promoting effects. Peppermint may reduce nausea. The mechanism isn't fully understood, but likely involves both pharmacological effects of absorbed compounds and neurological effects of scent on limbic system activity. Aromatherapy isn't a cure for serious conditions, but it provides an accessible tool for managing symptoms like anxiety, nausea, or poor sleep that impede healing. Individual responses vary. Scents that relax one person might irritate another. Personal preference matters more than specific oil properties. Using preferred scents creates an environment that feels calming or uplifting, supporting the emotional state that facilitates healing. Aromatherapy demonstrates again that healing happens in context, and simple environmental modifications that engage our sensory and emotional systems can support the physiological processes of repair. Light exposure influences circadian rhythms and mood. Bright light during the day strengthens circadian rhythms, improving sleep at night and supporting the timed physiological processes that depend on a clear circadian signal. Light therapy is established treatment for seasonal depression and shows promise for other mood disturbances. During healing, maintaining good light exposure, bright and blue enriched during morning and day, dim and warm during evening, supports sleep quality and circadian health. This influences hormone rhythms, immune function, and cellular repair timing. Light also directly affects mood through pathways separate from circadian effects. Many people healing from illness or injury spend excessive time indoors with inadequate light exposure. Prioritizing daily bright light, especially early in the day, is a simple intervention that supports multiple healing-relevant processes, For those with limited mobility, positioning near windows or using therapeutic light boxes provides alternatives. Light isn't just for vision. It's a biological signal that influences systems throughout the body, including those involved in healing. Cold exposure has complex effects on healing. Brief cold exposure, as in cold showers or ice baths, triggers adaptive stress responses that may enhance resilience. Cold causes vasoconstriction, followed by reactive vasodilation, potentially improving vascular function. It activates brown fat, generating heat and potentially beneficial metabolic effects. However, timing and context matter. Immediately after resistance exercise, cold may impair the inflammatory signals that drive training adaptations. For acute injuries, cold reduces swelling and pain. For chronic conditions, effects are more variable. Cold exposure is a stressor, and like any stressor, moderate doses may strengthen the system while excessive doses cause harm. During healing, brief, controlled cold exposure might support circulation and resilience, but should be approached cautiously, especially with circulation issues, or if it exacerbates symptoms. Cold therapy isn't for everyone and isn't always helpful. It represents another tool with specific applications rather than a universal healing practice. Individual response varies. Some people benefit while others don't tolerate it well. Heat exposure through sauna or hot baths affects healing. Heat increases circulation, promotes relaxation, and may trigger heat shock proteins that support cellular resilience. Sauna use is associated with reduced cardiovascular risk and appears to have broad health benefits. During healing, heat can relax tense muscles, improve circulation to healing tissue, and support parasympathetic activation. However, excessive heat can also cause dehydration and stress responses, particularly during acute illness. The key is appropriate timing and intensity. During chronic pain or recovery from musculoskeletal injury, regular heat exposure often helps. During acute illness with fever, adding external heat may be counterproductive. Heat therapy is most beneficial when the body isn't already dealing with heat stress and when adequate hydration supports the increased circulation. Like cold, heat is a tool with specific applications rather than universal benefit. Cultural traditions of using heat for healing, from saunas to hot springs, reflect accumulated wisdom about heat's therapeutic potential when applied appropriately. Grounding or earthing proposes health benefits from direct contact with the earth. Proponents suggest that direct physical contact with the ground allows electrons to flow into the body, reducing inflammation and improving various health markers. The evidence for specific mechanisms is limited and controversial. However, the behavior itself, spending time outdoors, often barefoot, in natural settings, provides multiple established benefits from nature exposure, sunlight, and gentle activity. Whether earthing works through electron transfer or simply through encouraging beneficial behaviors is unclear. For healing, the important point is that time outdoors in nature, however motivated, provides real benefits. Grounding practices create opportunities for sunlight exposure, connection with nature, mindful attention to sensory experience, and gentle movement, all supportive of healing regardless of electron flow theories. If the concept of earthing motivates someone to spend time in nature and be more physically active, those behaviors themselves support health. The practice is generally harmless and might be helpful, whether through proposed mechanisms or simply through the beneficial activities it encourages. Forest bathing, or Shinrin-yoku, has documented health benefits. This Japanese practice involves mindful immersion in forest environments. Research shows it reduces stress hormones, improves immune function, lowers blood pressure, and enhances mood. The effects persist beyond the forest visit. Mechanisms likely include reduced stress, beneficial effects of phytoncides, airborne compounds from trees, fractal visual patterns that relax the nervous system, and the restorative effects of nature attention. For healing, forest bathing represents an integrative approach: gentle physical activity, stress reduction, immune support, and connection with nature all combined. The practice emphasizes mindful presence rather than exercise, making it accessible even during recovery when vigorous activity isn't possible. Walking slowly through forests, pausing to observe details, breathing deeply, and engaging senses creates a meditative state that supports parasympathetic activation. Forest bathing can be adapted to ability level. Even sitting in a forest provides benefits. It exemplifies how healing involves the whole person in context, not just isolated tissue repair. Qigong and Tai Chi combine movement, breathing, and meditation. These traditional practices involve slow, deliberate movements coordinated with breath, combined with focused mental attention. Research shows benefits for balance, strength, pain management, stress reduction, and various health conditions. The practices are low impact and adaptable to different ability levels. For healing, they offer multiple benefits: gentle movement that maintains mobility without excessive stress, breathing practices that support parasympathetic activation, meditative attention that reduces stress and catastrophizing, and in group settings, social connection. The slow, controlled movements improve body awareness and coordination. The emphasis on relaxation and flow rather than force makes these practices accessible during recovery, when vigorous exercise isn't appropriate. Qigong and Tai Chi represent traditional healing systems that integrate physical, mental, and energetic dimensions. Whether energy concepts have literal validity or serve as useful metaphors, the practices themselves provide documented benefits through understood physiological mechanisms, improved balance and strength, better stress management, enhanced mind-body awareness, and supported healing through parasympathetic activation. Yoga offers multiple pathways supporting healing. Yoga combines physical postures, breathing practices, and meditation in a flexible framework adaptable to many needs. Gentle, restorative styles support healing through parasympathetic activation, while more active styles build strength and flexibility as recovery progresses. Breathing practices directly influence nervous system state. Meditation components reduce stress and improve pain management. The emphasis on non-judgment and meeting yourself where you are today supports psychological well-being. Research demonstrates benefits for chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, and various medical conditions. For healing, yoga's greatest strength may be integration, simultaneously addressing physical conditioning, stress management, pain modulation, body awareness, and sometimes spiritual or meaning-making dimensions of illness or injury. The practice scales from very gentle to very challenging, allowing adaptation to current capacity. Yoga philosophy's emphasis on balance, non-harming, and acceptance aligns with healing's needs. While yoga isn't required for healing, it provides an established framework that addresses multiple healing-relevant domains simultaneously. Acupuncture, may influence healing through nervous system pathways. Traditional acupuncture theory describes meridians and energy flow. Modern research explores mechanisms like endorphin release, nervous system modulation, and local inflammatory responses to needling. While mechanisms aren't fully understood, systematic reviews show benefits for some pain conditions and nausea. Acupuncture may work partly through expectation effects, partly through nervous system stimulation, and partly through mechanisms not yet identified. For healing, particularly pain management during recovery, acupuncture represents another tool. It's generally safe when practiced by trained providers. Whether it works through traditional energy concepts or modern neurological mechanisms matters less than whether individuals find it helpful. Acupuncture's long history suggests it provides value, even if our understanding of how remains incomplete. As with other complementary approaches, acupuncture works best as part of comprehensive care rather than as sole treatment. Its potential to reduce pain and support relaxation makes it relevant to healing without requiring full acceptance of traditional theoretical frameworks. Chiropractic care focuses on musculoskeletal alignment and function. Chiropractors primarily treat back pain, neck pain, and headaches through spinal manipulation and other manual techniques. Evidence supports chiropractic for some musculoskeletal conditions, though controversy exists about some practices and claims. For healing from musculoskeletal injury, chiropractic may help restore mobility and reduce pain. The hands-on nature provides some benefits similar to massage. However, chiropractic is most appropriate for mechanical problems rather than systemic illness. Risks are generally low with proper technique, though manipulation isn't appropriate for all conditions. Like other manual therapies, part of chiropractic's benefit may come from the therapeutic relationship, touch, and attention to the body. For specific musculoskeletal healing, chiropractic represents one option among several manual therapy approaches. Choosing providers who work collaboratively with other healthcare professionals and who provide evidence-based care ensures the safest, most effective treatment. Chiropractic care works best when integrated with other approaches, exercise, ergonomic modifications, and addressing underlying factors, rather than as isolated treatment. Physical therapy guides optimal tissue remodeling during healing. Physical therapists are movement experts who assess function, design exercise programs, and provide hands-on treatment to restore mobility and strength. During healing, physical therapy ensures movement occurs at the right intensity and timing to stimulate optimal tissue remodeling without overwhelming healing capacity. Exercises are progressed as healing advances, gradually challenging tissue to adapt and strengthen. Manual techniques address restrictions and pain. Education helps people understand their condition and self-manage. Physical therapy is evidence-based rehabilitation, applying knowledge of healing timelines and tissue responses to guide recovery. The relationship with a physical therapist provides accountability, encouragement, and expert problem-solving when complications arise. For many injuries and surgeries, physical therapy is essential to optimal outcomes. It represents collaborative care where the therapist's expertise guides, but the patient's effort performs the actual healing work. Physical therapy exemplifies how healing requires both rest and appropriate challenge, with timing and intensity carefully calibrated to support rather than impede recovery. Occupational therapy helps people maintain function during healing. Occupational therapists focus on daily activities, dressing, cooking, working, hobbies, helping people adapt tasks or environment to maintain independence despite injury or illness. During healing, especially from severe injuries or neurological conditions, occupational therapy addresses practical challenges of daily living. This might involve adaptive equipment, modified techniques, or environmental changes that allow continued function. Maintaining ability to perform valued activities supports both practical well-being and psychological health during recovery. Feeling capable and independent reduces depression and anxiety that otherwise impede healing. Occupational therapy also addresses fine motor skills, coordination, and cognitive function when these are affected. The focus on real-world function rather than isolated exercises helps ensure rehabilitation translates to actual life improvement. For healing, especially from injuries affecting hand function, stroke, or conditions causing fatigue, occupational therapy bridges the gap between medical recovery and practical life, ensuring healing translates to restored ability to engage in meaningful activities. Speech therapy addresses more than just speech. Speech-language pathologists treat communication disorders, swallowing problems, and some cognitive issues. After stroke, brain injury, or surgeries affecting the head and neck, speech therapy helps restore function. Swallowing therapy is crucial for safe eating and preventing aspiration pneumonia during recovery. Cognitive communication therapy addresses attention, memory, and problem-solving difficulties that can follow neurological injury. Voice therapy helps people recovering from vocal cord injury or surgery. For healing from conditions affecting these functions, speech therapy is specialized rehabilitation that addresses complex, vital abilities, often taken for granted until impaired. The work can be frustrating and requires patience as neural pathways slowly reconnect or compensate. Speech therapists also provide strategies for communicating when full recovery isn't possible. Their work illustrates how healing sometimes means recovery and sometimes means adaptation, learning new ways to accomplish essential functions when old ways are no longer available. Support groups connect people with shared healing experiences. While not therapy in the traditional sense, support groups provide a unique resource, connection with others navigating similar challenges. Shared experience reduces isolation and the feeling that no one understands. Practical information flows between members who've solved similar problems. Seeing others further along in recovery provides hope and modeling. Groups also validate difficult emotions and experiences, reducing the sense that struggling means failing. The social connection itself supports healing through mechanisms discussed earlier: stress reduction, oxytocin release, improved treatment adherence. Support groups work best when well facilitated and when members share enough common experience to relate, while maintaining enough diversity for fresh perspectives. Online groups expand access but may lack some benefits of in-person connection. For healing, especially from chronic conditions or life-changing injuries, support groups address the social and emotional dimensions that medical treatment alone cannot. They remind people they're not alone and provide both practical wisdom and emotional sustenance for the healing journey. Peer support or mentorship provides one-on-one connection. Similar to support groups but individualized, peer support pairs someone currently healing with someone who has successfully navigated similar challenges. This relationship provides hope, practical guidance, and someone who truly understands. Peer supporters aren't therapists, but rather fellow travelers further along the path. They offer what clinical relationships typically don't: genuine mutuality and shared identity based on lived experience. For healing, peer support can be particularly powerful during difficult phases, when medical options feel exhausted or when adjusting to permanent changes. Someone who has been there and emerged has credibility. No professional can quite match. Peer support programs exist for many conditions: cancer, spinal cord injury, addiction recovery, mental illness, and more. The relationship provides both giver and receiver with benefits. Helpers experience purpose and meaning from supporting others. Peer support recognizes that healing isn't just medical, but deeply social and personal, requiring not just technical expertise, but human connection and hope. Spiritual practices and meaning-making support healing for many people. Research shows that spiritual or religious involvement correlates with better health outcomes, likely through multiple pathways: social connection through communities, practices like prayer or meditation that reduce stress, sense of purpose that motivates health behaviors, and frameworks for finding meaning in suffering. Spirituality isn't required for healing, but for those with spiritual beliefs, these can be powerful resources. Prayer, religious services, spiritual counseling, and practices like reading sacred texts provide comfort and context. They help people make sense of why illness or injury occurred and what it means for their life. Spiritual frameworks often emphasize hope, acceptance, and trust in processes beyond personal control, attitudes that support rather than impede healing. Healthcare increasingly recognizes spirituality as a dimension of holistic care. This doesn't mean imposing beliefs, but rather respecting and supporting patients' existing spiritual resources. For those with spiritual orientation, these beliefs and practices integrate with healing rather than existing separately from it. Meaning-making, finding purpose or growth in difficult experiences, supports psychological adjustment that in turn affects physical healing. Post-traumatic growth can emerge from healing challenges. While trauma and illness cause suffering, some people report positive changes afterward: greater appreciation for life, closer relationships, recognition of personal strength, changed priorities, or spiritual deepening. This post-traumatic growth isn't about minimizing difficulty or suggesting trauma is good. It's recognition that humans sometimes transform suffering into meaning and growth. Not everyone experiences this, and it shouldn't be expected or forced. But for those who do, it represents an important dimension of healing, not just physical recovery, but psychological and spiritual transformation. The experience of facing mortality, depending on others, confronting limitations, and persisting through difficulty can catalyze changes people later value. Research on post-traumatic growth suggests that both acknowledging suffering and finding meaning in it support this process. Healing at its deepest level sometimes involves not just returning to previous function, but emerging changed, perhaps in some ways stronger or wiser for the experience. This doesn't make trauma worthwhile, but it recognizes the human capacity to find meaning and growth even in difficult circumstances. Resilience can be cultivated through practice. Resilience, the ability to adapt to and recover from adversity, isn't just an innate trait. It can be developed through practices that build psychological flexibility, stress management skills, social connections, sense of purpose, and self-efficacy. During and after healing challenges, building resilience helps people navigate not just the current difficulty, but future ones. Resilience practices include developing problem-solving skills, maintaining connections, finding meaning, practicing self-compassion, and building confidence through small successes. Physical resilience develops similarly, gradually increasing challenges in ways that build strength without overwhelming capacity. Healing itself can be a resilience-building experience when approached with intention. Each challenge overcome provides evidence of capacity. Each difficulty navigated develops skills transferable to future challenges. Resilience isn't about being unaffected by difficulty, but about recovering from it. It's a dynamic process of bending without breaking, adapting to changed circumstances, and continuing forward despite setbacks. For long-term health, building resilience may matter as much as any specific treatment, providing the psychological foundation that supports both healing and well-being beyond it. Self-compassion supports healing better than self-criticism. When facing illness or injury, people often criticize themselves for getting injured, for not healing faster, for limitations. Research shows self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend, predicts better outcomes than self-criticism. Self-compassion involves recognizing suffering, understanding it as part of human experience, and responding with kindness rather than judgment. This reduces stress, improves motivation for health behaviors, and supports psychological well-being that influences physical healing. Self-criticism activates stress responses that impede healing. It also creates avoidance. People who judge themselves harshly are less likely to monitor symptoms or follow treatment, fearing confirmation of failure. Self-compassion allows honest assessment without harsh judgment, supporting rather than sabotaging health behaviors. Practicing self-compassion during healing doesn't mean lowering standards or avoiding effort. It means treating yourself kindly while doing the difficult work healing requires. This approach reduces suffering, maintains motivation, and creates the psychological environment where healing flourishes. Healing is fundamentally about restoration of wholeness. The word healing comes from the same root as whole. It means becoming complete or sound again. This is broader than cure, which means eliminating disease. Healing can occur even when cure isn't possible, as people find ways to live fully despite ongoing conditions. Healing involves physical repair, but also psychological adjustment, social reconnection, and sometimes spiritual transformation. It's about the entire person finding balance and integration despite what has happened. Medical treatment addresses disease or injury. Healing addresses the person experiencing that disease or injury. Both matter, but they're not identical. Someone can be cured without feeling healed if psychological or social wounds remain. Conversely, people sometimes heal, finding peace, purpose, and wholeness, even when physical cure proves impossible. Understanding healing in its fullest sense means attending to all dimensions of human experience: body, mind, relationships, meaning, and spirit. Complete healing rarely occurs through medical intervention alone, but requires engagement from the whole person across all dimensions of their life. The body possesses wisdom accumulated over evolutionary time. Every healing mechanism exists because it provided survival advantage to ancestors. The inflammatory response, despite its discomfort, evolved because it effectively contained infections and coordinated repair. Pain evolved as a protective signal. Fever evolved as immune enhancement. The body's healing responses aren't mistakes requiring correction. They're sophisticated adaptations requiring respect. Modern medicine works best when partnering with these evolved mechanisms rather than overriding them. This doesn't mean rejecting medical intervention. Some healing responses do overshoot and require modulation, but it means approaching the body's responses with curiosity about their purpose before reflexively suppressing them. Symptoms are signals, not enemies. The body is trying to heal. Our task is supporting that effort, removing obstacles, and occasionally redirecting responses that have become excessive. This perspective, trusting the body's healing wisdom while recognizing its limitations, creates partnership between person, body, and medicine, rather than a battle against the body's processes. Healing requires patience with natural timelines. In a culture that values speed and efficiency, healing's slow pace can be frustrating. But tissue repair, neural reconnection, and immune education cannot be rushed beyond certain limits. Collagen takes time to strengthen. Nerves regrow at fixed rates. Learning, whether the immune system learning to recognize pathogens or the nervous system learning new movement patterns, requires repetition over time. Pushing too hard, too fast, causes setbacks. Respecting healing timelines doesn't mean passivity, but rather calibrating effort to current capacity and trusting the process. Each type of tissue has characteristic healing times based on its structure and blood supply. Bone healing takes weeks to months. Ligament tears take months. Nerve injuries can take a year or more. These aren't arbitrary, they reflect biological realities. Healing also isn't linear. Some days feel worse than others. Plateaus are normal. Progress comes in fits and starts. Patience with this reality reduces frustration and stress that would otherwise impede healing. Trust that the body is working even when progress isn't visible, and that given adequate time and support, healing will occur. Healing is always possible, even when cure is not. This distinction matters for people with chronic conditions or permanent injuries. When complete restoration isn't possible, healing involves adaptation, finding new ways to live fully and well within changed circumstances. It involves grief for what was lost and discovery of new possibilities. It includes physical rehabilitation to maximize remaining function and psychological work to integrate the experience. Healing without cure might look like pain management rather than pain elimination, like adaptation rather than restoration, like acceptance rather than defeat. It recognizes that wholeness doesn't require perfection or full function, but rather integration and peace with what is. Many people living with chronic conditions or disabilities describe themselves as healed even though their conditions persist. They've found ways to live meaningfully, to maintain relationships, to experience joy and purpose despite ongoing challenges. This broader understanding of healing offers hope even in circumstances where medical cure proves impossible. The body and psyche have remarkable capacity to adapt, integrate, and find balance in new circumstances. Healing is both a biological process and a human journey. While tissue repair follows predictable physiological patterns, the experience of healing is deeply personal. It involves not just what happens in cells and organs, but how people make sense of their experience, what support they receive, how they adjust their identity and expectations, and what meaning they find. Two people with identical injuries may have very different healing journeys based on psychological factors, social support, previous experiences, and personal resources. Healing happens in context: physical, psychological, social, and cultural. Optimal healing addresses all these dimensions, not just the biological. This is why patient-centered care matters, why therapeutic relationships affect outcomes, why social determinants of health influence recovery. Medical treatment provides crucial interventions, but healing ultimately happens in individual lives within specific contexts. Supporting healing means seeing the whole person in their full context, not just the diseased or injured part. It means recognizing that healing involves the person doing it, not just the body undergoing repair. Every moment offers a choice to support or hinder healing. The daily choices we make, what we eat, how we move, how we manage stress, how we connect with others, how we talk to ourselves, accumulate into healing environments or obstacles. No single choice determines outcomes, but patterns matter. Chronic stress, poor sleep, isolation, and self-criticism accumulate into barriers. Rest, nourishment, connection, and self-compassion accumulate into support. This isn't about perfection or self-blame for imperfect choices. It's about awareness that we participate in our healing through countless small decisions. Some factors lie beyond personal control. Genetics, accidents, resources, and circumstances vary widely. But within whatever constraints exist, some agency remains. That agency is meaningful. The person healing isn't a passive recipient of treatment, but an active participant whose choices influence outcomes. This recognition empowers without blaming, acknowledging both the limitations we face and the agency we retain. Every moment is an opportunity to ask, does this choice support healing or hinder it? That awareness itself creates space for choices that gradually shift the balance toward healing. Healing doesn't mean returning to exactly what you were before. Change is inevitable. Injury or illness interrupts life's flow, and return isn't to the exact previous state, but to a new normal that incorporates what happened. Scar tissue isn't identical to original tissue. Muscles that atrophied require rebuilding. Perspectives shift. Priorities may change. Relationships deepen or sometimes reveal limitations. Healing includes integrating these changes, adapting to new realities, and building a life that includes rather than denies what occurred. Acceptance of change doesn't mean liking it or ceasing to grieve losses. It means acknowledging reality clearly enough to work with it rather than fighting it. Some changes ultimately prove beneficial. Lessons learned, resilience built, appreciation deepened. Others remain difficult. Both are part of healing. The self that emerges from major illness or injury inevitably differs from the self that entered it. Healing involves getting to know and accept this change itself, building a life that works for who you are now rather than clinging to who you were before. This doesn't happen all at once, but gradually, through the slow process of adaptation and integration that is part of healing's journey. The destination of healing is not perfection, but balance. Bodies were never meant to be perfect. They're meant to be functional enough to support life. Healing aims for good enough function, manageable symptoms, and quality of life rather than perfect restoration. This is true even in everyday minor healing. Scars persist after wounds close. Remodeled bone differs slightly from original. Healed muscle may have areas of slightly different texture. These imperfections don't prevent function. The body prioritizes practical function over perfect form. Psychologically, healing also means finding balance rather than achieving perfect peace. Difficult emotions may arise occasionally, even after significant healing. That's normal. Healing isn't elimination of all distress. but ability to navigate it without being overwhelmed. It's emotional resilience and flexibility, rather than constant happiness. The balanced state healing seeks is dynamic, not static, constantly adjusting to changing conditions, flexible enough to handle perturbations. Seeking perfection as healing's goal sets up frustration and failure. Seeking balance, good enough function, and ability to adapt creates realistic, achievable targets that honor healing's actual nature and outcomes. Gratitude for the body's healing capacity changes the healing experience. Instead of taking healing for granted or focusing only on what's wrong, consciously appreciating what's working shifts perspective. The body heals countless small injuries daily without conscious awareness. It maintains billions of cells, filters blood continuously, breathes and beats without instruction. This ongoing work deserves recognition. During significant healing, gratitude might focus on small improvements, on care received, on remaining abilities, on the remarkable repair processes underway. Gratitude doesn't require ignoring difficulty or forcing false positivity. It's simply broadening attention to include what's working alongside what isn't. This shift has practical effects. Gratitude reduces stress hormones, improves heart rate variability, supports sleep, and enhances overall well-being. It also changes the subjective experience of healing, reducing suffering even when pain persists. Gratitude for the body's healing wisdom creates partnership with your body rather than frustration with its limitations. It acknowledges that healing is happening even when incomplete, that progress deserves recognition even when more remains, that the body's constant work on your behalf merits appreciation. This attitude supports healing both biologically through stress reduction and psychologically through improved coping. Heartbeat variability reflects how well you recover. The tiny variations between each heartbeat reveal profound truths about health. High variability means that the nervous system is flexible, able to shift smoothly between alertness and rest. Low variability signals chronic stress, fatigue, or illness. This subtle rhythm mirrors the body's capacity for adaptation and healing. When calm practices like breathing, sleep, and gratitude increase variability, inflammation decreases and recovery accelerates. Athletes, doctors, and researchers use this measure to assess resilience, but the body has known it all along. The heart's rhythm is an ongoing story of balance. It doesn't need perfection, only responsiveness. A flexible heartbeat means a responsive system, one that can meet challenge with grace. The secret language of heart rate variability is the rhythm of healing itself, a constant reminder that health is not stillness, but the ability to move fluidly between strain and serenity. Neuroplasticity allows the brain to heal after injury. The brain possesses an extraordinary gift. It can change itself. When neurons are lost or damaged, surrounding ones can form new pathways to restore function. This adaptability, called neuroplasticity, allows recovery from trauma, stroke, and disease once thought permanent. Repetition, focused practice, and sensory stimulation encourage these changes, helping the brain rewire itself to learn anew. The process is slow, guided by chemistry and perseverance. Yet it never truly ends. Even in adulthood, fresh neurons emerge in certain regions, blending into networks of memory and movement. Every thought and experience subtly reshapes the architecture of the mind. Healing, by descent therefore, is both physical and mental. Growth within each quiet moment of focus or curiosity, where neurons reach toward each other like branches, weaving new patterns of understanding. The brain's plasticity is its promise that repair and learning are different names for the same wonder. Mirror therapy can help retrain nerves after amputation. When a limb is lost, the brain's map of the body remains, often causing sensations or pain where the limb once was. Mirror therapy uses reflection to re-educate the nervous system. By watching the remaining limb move in a mirror, the brain perceives it as the missing one, updating its internal image. This illusion restores coordination and can reduce phantom pain. Over time, the brain reorganizes itself, silencing unnecessary signals and reinforcing accurate ones. The therapy demonstrates how perception guides physiology and how imagination can reshape pain. Through this gentle exercise, the nervous system learns that the injury has healed and balance can return. What begins as a trick of reflection becomes genuine recovery, showing that healing sometimes arises not from fixing the body, but from teaching the mind to see differently, aligning illusion with the truth of wholeness. The body stores physical memories of trauma. Emotional experiences can leave physical imprints within muscles, posture, and breath. When trauma occurs, tension locks into tissues through patterns of stress hormones and muscle contraction. Over time, these stored memories may manifest as pain, stiffness, or fatigue. Gentle movement, therapy, and mindfulness help release them, allowing energy to flow freely again. The process is both biological and emotional. As muscles relax, the nervous system interprets safety, and the body lets go of vigilance. Scientific studies confirm that trauma can alter cellular signaling and even gene expression, influencing health long after the event. Healing means restoring communication between body and mind, allowing suppressed patterns to dissolve. As the body softens, awareness returns. Every stretch, every sigh becomes an act of remembrance and release, transforming pain into understanding. The body never forgets, but it also never stops offering the chance to begin again. Healing can release old cellular stress patterns. Inside every cell, stress leaves subtle traces, proteins misfolded, molecules oxidized, energy stores depleted. When healing begins, those patterns are revisited and cleared away. This cellular cleansing happens through processes like autophagy and mitochondrial renewal. It's both repair and reinvention, as the cell not only mends but learns. Emotional release often parallels this biology as the nervous system sheds outdated patterns that once served protection. The body rebalances, the chemistry quiets, and a new equilibrium forms. Sometimes fatigue or vivid emotion accompanies this phase, signs that deep restoration is underway. Healing isn't simply erasing damage, it's rewriting memory. Each cell once burdened becomes lighter, more efficient, and more alive. Within this quiet transformation, the entire organism realigns with its natural rhythm of vitality. The process reminds us that to heal fully is to remember peace on the smallest scale imaginable. Healing is the body's most ancient language of life. Before thought, before speech, before even consciousness, there was repair. Every cell on earth carries within it the instinct to restore what is broken. This impulse predates evolution's complexity, stretching back billions of years to the first forms of life that learned how to persist. Healing is the foundation upon which survival stands. It is the translation of experience into adaptation, of injury into wisdom. Each scar, each renewal, is a phrase in that universal language. Across species and centuries, the message remains the same: continue. Within this conversation, life speaks to itself through chemistry, rhythm, and light. Every heartbeat echoes the same declaration uttered by the earliest cell: I will go on. Healing in its truest form is not an act of fixing, but of remembering. It is life recognizing itself and choosing once again to begin. As we drift toward the end of this quiet journey, let yourself rest in the gentle truth that healing is not a single moment. It is the soft rhythm that continues beneath every breath. Even now, as you lie still, your body is at work in silence. Cells are rebuilding, nerves are rewiring, and the pulse of life is moving through you with perfect patience. Healing does not always announce itself. It is found in the moments when you exhale completely, when you forgive yourself for being tired, when you remember that rest is not idleness, but an act of trust. Every heartbeat, every dream, every small sigh in the dark is a note in the body's quiet song of renewal. You are not the same person who began this night. Somewhere deep inside, chemistry has shifted. Tension has loosened its grip. Your body knows what to do, and it has never forgotten. Even when pain feels endless, even when fatigue whispers otherwise, the will to mend remains steady, ancient, and sure. So let your thoughts drift like slow clouds. Let your breath lengthen and your shoulders soften. Feel how the air moves in and out, effortless and alive. That is life continuing its promise, weaving you back into balance, one calm moment at a time. Healing has been with you since the very beginning, written into every cell and carried in every drop of blood. It asks only that you listen, that you rest, that you allow the world to hold you as you are. If you enjoyed this quiet journey, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. For now, close your eyes and let go of the noise of waking life. Let stillness settle over you like a soft blanket. Feel your body ease into its own rhythm, calm and complete. Sleep well and good night.